It's been a minute, and now we're back. It's been a long minute, and now we're back. Hey, pretty, I am so excited to spend some time with you today. I hope that you are ready for the word, for some good conversation, and for some thought provoking ideas that I hope will enhance your personal study time, your personal relationship with the Lord, but also your personal commitment to walking out faith. So, if that sounds like something that you want to do, I want you to grab your beverage of choice. Mine is water. I want you to grab the word and a notepad for some notes, and let's get started. Okay, so again, I am so excited to spend time with you. I'm Petra, I'm your faith bestie, and that means that the Lord has called me to navigate life with you well. It means that the relationships that I build are all prefaced and centered around God, period. That's it, nada, nothing else. But it also means that there are seasons that He has me prioritize things in ways that may not make sense to me in that moment. It may not make sense to you, but because of the relationship that I hope that you will develop with me and your other faith besties, you will always prioritize God. You will always prioritize Him. And I say all that to say it's been a minute since I have sat down with you. It's been a minute since a pretty good coffee, since a vlog. We haven't had a vlog since last year. Like, there's just been so much stuff, right? But the one thing that has been constant and consistent is the Lord and my commitment to doing things the way that He wants. So I can't always jump on and record, but I am always praying for you. I am always thinking about you and asking and seeking the Lord about you. So please always know that even if you don't see me, that I am interceding on your behalf. And so thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for those that have been catching the daily reminders. The Lord has had me doing those since September. Every day, Monday through Friday. Let me clarify. Monday through Friday, I do a daily reminder for my quiet time with the Lord. The Lord just gives me a quick thought, 60 seconds, just to share, to start your day, and to keep you focused on Him during the day. So thank you for all of you that have been checking those out. I hope that they're a blessing to you. Now, let's get into it. Let's get into what the Lord wants me to share with you. And the first thing that I'm going to tell you, we're going to do things a little bit differently because this is not like a normal pretty good coffee. So this is not going to be 10 minutes, guys. This is an actual, like, we're going to be together for a minute because, like I said, the Lord hasn't called me to do pretty good coffees for a little bit, probably because I'm on a coffee fast. So there's also that. So we're going to have a little bit more time today. So if you have to pause this and come back later, that's totally fine. But I want to take my time with this, but I'm also not going to take too much time because I want you to also make the effort of doing your personal study after we get done. All right, so all of that out of the way, we're going to get into it. And the first thing that I want to really put before you is that it is time to consider God for who He is and not what you expect Him to be. It is time to consider God for who He is and not what you expect Him to be. And it's really important that we start there. I'm going to move this. Okay, sorry, guys. It's really important that we start there, that we're going to, from this moment forward, consider God for who He is and not what we expect Him to be. Because sometimes if we allow our expectations to dictate how we engage with Him, to dictate how we trust Him, to dictate how we're obedient to Him, we miss everything because our expectations can be skewed, and often they are skewed because they are based on our flesh, our ego, our needs, our desires, and not on His word, not on His desires, and not His purpose, plan, or will for our lives. And so we have to consider who He is, and who He is exactly who He says. The end. The Lord does not lie, and He does not change. If He has said a thing, He is a thing. And so just because you're in a season that doesn't feel like what He said, it doesn't change what He said. And so we've got to consider Him from a place of who He is and not our expectations. And that's going to be so important in our discussion for today. All the things that we're going to talk about, because we are in an equipping season, we're in a training season, we're in a faith building season, but we're also in a faith activation season, I was in Georgia a weekend or so ago, and we were having a conversation about how to study effectively, how to pray effectively, how to put your faith into action. And the Lord is continuing that conversation because it's so important, because where you go, how you go is going to change based on your understanding of who He is. Where you go and how you go is going to change based on your understanding of who he is. And so the best place to get a full understanding, a truthful understanding of who the Lord is from him. It's not from us. It's not even from our experiences that we think that we've had with him. Because sometimes the experiences that we attribute to the Lord are really experiences with our flesh, community, or the world, with sin, with the enemy. They actually have nothing to do with God. And so we have to be very, 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 very careful that we don't always attribute our experiences that we think are with God to God. God is who he says he is, not adding anything and not taking anything away. Just because we feel a certain way does not change who he is. It doesn't change that. And so if you're in a season right now where you feel like, listen, there is no way out. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how we're going to get there. I just want to remind you of this, that just because you don't see a way out, that does not mean that God hasn't made one. Just because you don't see a way out, that does not mean that God hasn't made one. Remember, the very first thing that he asked me to share with you is to consider him from a perspective of who he is and not our expectations, not our experiences, not our perspectives, not our desires. Okay? So if you're in a season that seems really hard, you don't understand it, doesn't look like there's a way out, that does not mean that God has not made one. Just because you don't see it does not mean that God has not made a way. I want you to hold that. I want you to hold that. And we're going to start Scripture verse here really quickly. And like I said, I have some notes that we're going to go through. And I want to take my time, but I also don't want to take too much time because the Lord is already talking right. He's already talking right now. And so where we're going to start, and remember, we've already talked about consider him for who he is, not from your expectations, but also to remember that just because you don't see a way out doesn't mean that he hasn't made one. And we're talking about the activation of our faith, a life of faith, the hope that is embedded in faith. We're going to be talking about that. And so we have to remember that sometimes, especially if you're in this season that feels really hard and it feels unending, it feels like we don't see God, it feels like there's no way out of it, it feels like the drought is never going to turn, it feels like the rain will never come, it feels like the hard thing will never soften up or be moved. I want you to remember that sometimes the Lord speaks to the end of a thing before he speaks to the beginning of another thing. The Lord speaks to the end of a thing before he speaks to the beginning of another thing. And here's why that's really important, because he's trying to get you to a place of contentment, but also a place of trust. So we're always looking to the next thing. Well, what are you doing in this next place? I want to get there. I think that there's greater there. But you have to trust that you're going to end this season well, but that means you have to get everything that's required out of this season. And so sometimes the Lord will call us out of a place, but he won't tell us all the details about the next place. He's closing up this chapter and he's closing it well. And he's not necessarily closing it with details. A lot of us want to think that well means details. Well means full understanding or full knowledge of a thing. You don't need full understanding or full knowledge of what he tells you. You need full understanding that he's never lied and he's never put you into a place of danger. That's what you need full understanding of. That's what you need full knowledge of. That's where your trust should lie. He's going to speak to the end of a thing before he speaks to the beginning of something else. So he is going to close a chapter. He's going to call you out of a place. And sometimes that feels hard because you didn't get the answers you sought in that place. You didn't get what you thought you would get in that place. And on top of it, because you have been there so long, you are now so familiar with it that you have become comfortable with it. And it feels scary to be called out and not be given a new security blanket in the next place. But the Lord is speaking to close this because that chapter, that season is over. You've gotten what he needed for you to get out of there, and he wants to see you really exemplify and amplify your trust in him for the next space. Because remember the very first thought, we're considering him for who he is. We have to trust that we know who he is. If you don't know, you need to spend more time. You don't know him if you don't spend time with him. And again, it's not saying that you have to spend 20 hours a day with him. It's not saying that you have to study the way that I study or study the way someone else studies or read or worship the way somebody else studies, but you do have to spend time. You do have to be intentional. You do have to be committed. You do have to do the work of relationship building. So if you feel like you can't consider him for who he is, it's because you don't know who he is. You haven't taken time to develop an understanding of who he is. And so when we talk about, hey, you're in this season that seems unending and you don't see a way out, you have to trust that he's already made one. And not only has he made one, but when he's calling you out of a place, just because you don't feel comfortable or you don't feel like you have everything you need or you don't feel like you got the answers that you needed in that space, it does not mean that he's leading you into another place of bondage. He's calling you out of the bondage of the familiar, of the comfortable place. A lot of us have become comfortable with our bondage in our season of waiting. And here's why. Because a lot of us have created the bondage in our season of waiting. It feels natural to us. It is familiar to us because it came from us. We had given it access. Even if we didn't create it, we gave it access. And so that's what becomes familiar to us. Less than God. The bondage, the security blanket that we have created in this season of waiting that he called us into, or the season of learning, of training that he called us into. Because sometimes instead of us leaning into the training, instead of us leaning into the burn, instead of us leaning into the stretching, we create little pockets of comfort. We create things that make us feel good about a thing when really we're not necessarily to feel good about it. We're to feel equipped by it. You won't always feel good when you're equipped. Because there's a breaking in that. There's a stretching in that. There's a purifying in that. That's a whole nother conversation on sanctification, right? That's a whole thing. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Darian needed me, and that means my kiddo needed me. So I had to take a moment there. But here's, again, it's really important because, and here's how you'll know if that's what you're doing. Here's how you'll know if that's what you're doing. You're in a season of waiting, or you're in a season of training and equipping. And instead of really following through with all of the steps, instead of really leaning into, like I said, the burn, the stretch, the training, you'll begin to hold things back. You'll begin to do things that make you feel comfortable, things that make you feel good about the situation, instead of asking the Lord if he feels good about your progress. You'll want the things that make you feel like, oh, I've done a lot, so I can take a break on this. I don't need to do this today. Instead of asking the Lord, have I done enough for today? Instead of asking the Lord about the progress. Instead of asking the Lord, what was the lesson that you wanted me to learn here? Instead of asking the Lord, hey, are you pleased with my efforts in this place? That's the difference. That's how you know, right? But there's also a reality that sometimes these waiting seasons, they become waiting seasons. They weren't always waiting seasons. Again, they could have been a training place, an equipping place, a place where you're grown, a place where you were born, a place where you were developed, right? And then that chapter is closing. And instead of the Lord giving you details, he calls you out of it. But because it is familiar to you, it feels painful for you, and it's difficult to activate your trust. But again, that goes back to, do you know him well enough? Are you considering who he is? The fact that he's never lied, the fact that he's never betrayed you, that he's never let you down, that he's always provided for you, that he's a healer, that he is a good commander, that he is sovereign, and that he's a good father. Have you always considered those things? Like truly when you engage with him? Or do you come from a place of your expectations? Like, Lord, I'm in this season, so I expect you to be this here. But consider this, just because you are in this season does not mean that that is where the Lord is. Is the Lord always with you? Yes. But is his plan there? No. And we miss that sometimes. The Lord walks with us. He guides us. He directs us. He holds our hand. He carries us in some seasons. Yes, he's there, but that doesn't mean that's where his plan is. And so our expectation of him in that place is misguided. He's over here. You're expecting him to be something in this season that has already closed for him, and he's directing you into where he actually is functioning and planning. Okay, so let's get into, I want to go ahead and move into some examples in the word. And and because these scriptures come back to back, which is so good to me, I love this. these verses. I'm going to say these verses come back to back. It's really easy to kind of tie them together. But I just want to go to Hebrews. We're going to go to Hebrews 11. We're going to go to Hebrews 11. I want to start at verse 7. Hebrews 11, verse 7. And we'll go through, let's go through verse 12 right now. Hebrews 11, verses 7 through 12. And this is the CSB version. By faith, Noah, after he was warned about what was not yet seen and motivated by godly fear, built an ark to deliver his family. By faith, he condemned the world and became an heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed and set out for a place that he was going to receive as an inheritance. He went out even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he stayed as a foreigner in the land of promise, living in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, co-heirs of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city that has foundations, whose architect and builder is God. By faith, even Sarah herself, when she was unable to have children, received power to conceive offspring, even though she was past the age, since she considered that the one who had promised was faithful. Therefore, from one man, in fact, from one as good as dead, came offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and as innumerable as the grains of sand along the seashore. What's really, really important again about this is just what I was talking about how God will speak to the end of something before he speaks to the beginning of something else. And we'll focus really closely, on Abraham first. He literally called him out of a place that was familiar, a dead place at that point. It wasn't always dead. It was the place where his family was. It was the place where he had grown, where he had built, where he was known, right? But it had become a dead place. And the Lord called him out of it because there was no growth there for Abraham. And it was Abram at the time, but he called him out, but he didn't give him details. He did not give him details. And again, we have to consider this, that Abram was considering God for who he is, not for his expectations of God. God gave him no details. He just said, hey, I need you to go. I have a place for you, and you've got to leave this place and follow. You've got to go until I tell you to stop. You've got to stay until I tell you to build. You've got to build until I tell you that's enough. Like, he literally said, I'm not going to give you the details. You just got to trust. You just got to come. And so when you talk about faith, it has to be built on knowledge of who God is. Is it going to be easy? Are you going to fully understand everything that's going on? Are you going to get the details of things all the time? No. But you have the details that God never lies. You have the details that God will never put more on you than you can bear. You have the details that God does not change. And if he leads you to a place, he has already been there. And not only has he been there, but he's waiting for you there. And not only is he waiting for you there, but there is favor there. This is the activation of our faith, right? Because again, we have to be called out of these places, but we also have to be willing to leave the familiar and trust that God is the only thing that we should seek to be familiar with. These things of comfort, these things that we've held in our pockets for years, these things that have become better to us or more known to us than God, those are the things that can put us in a place of idolatry, of sin, and of disobedience. Those are the things. Those are the things. And what I really like about this, so let's go to verses 11 and 12. By faith, even Sarah herself, when she was unable to have children, received power to conceive offspring, even though she was past the age, since she considered that the one who had promised was faithful. Therefore, from one man, in fact, from one as good as dead, as in there was no reason to think that this man had any ability to even give her a child, right? Came offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and as innumerable as the grains of sand along the seashore. But here's where I want to go back. right in verse 11, right there at the end, since she considered that the one who had promised was faithful. It was after the initial season. She was being held in this waiting season for the promise, but she considered the Lord to be faithful. But now it was past that. It was past that. It was past that. Now she had gotten to a place where I don't know if this is going to happen. I know what he said to you. I understand that. But listen, it ain't physically possible. It's no longer possible. It's no longer possible. It's no longer possible. But when you consider who God is, it has absolutely nothing to do with our definition of possible. There is literally no impossibility in God. He is the encompassing definition, example of possibility. There's no impossibility in him. There is no impossibility in him. And so even Sarah had to be called out of her familiar place of waiting, out of her familiar place of, well, I guess this just isn't going to happen. I have succumbed to this, to the place of, if you'll trust that I am who I say I am. And she didn't at first. She laughed. She laughed. But here's what's really important for us, and what I think is really important about these verses that I read, is that if your faith can't move, your faith can't grow. If your faith can't move, your faith can't grow. From verse 7 to verse 12, this is what we're seeing. There has to be constant movement. There has to be constant growth. There has to be a constant trust to pick up your feet and follow him. There has to be a shifting of the mindset that my faith will move as the Lord moves, that what he says goes, that when he's shifting, I'm shifting, that when he's moving, I'm moving. If your faith can't move, your faith can't grow. You will never see the maturation of his promises if your faith doesn't move. If you stay stuck in a season that he's calling you out of, if you become more content in a place that he has removed himself from, if you become overly familiar with your bondage that you no longer have any type of depth of perception of who he is, your faith cannot grow. You will not see the maturation of the promise. You will have no results. You will have no results because you're not in the place where the results reside. You are looking for results in a season that he is calling you out of. And yes, do we want to learn contentment with what the Lord has decided? 1,000%. But sometimes we have become content with bondage, not content with the Lord's decision. Because sometimes the Lord's decision is more difficult and requires more work, and we're tired and we're annoyed and we're frustrated and we don't want to do the one more thing. And so we refuse to move. And because we refuse to move, we don't have the results that we desire in the next space, the next season, which then will enhance our faith. It's a cycle. If your faith can't move, then your faith also can't grow. Your results are in the next space. They're not in the space where you are. They're not in the space where you are. So here's what I want you to hold on to. The Lord is calling us to the end of an era. Don't prolong it. Don't prolong it. Don't hold out. Don't try to stay in this place. Don't try to negotiate with people or overly explain to people. If the Lord is shifting you, shift with him. Consider him for who he is, not your expectations. Don't think about, well, why is he doing this now? Or why is he saying it like this? Or why is he calling me into this place without details? Or why don't I get to really enjoy this place that I'm in? I put in so much work here, and now he's already calling me into the next space. If your faith won't move, your faith won't grow. And that means that you won't see the results of the prayers you prayed here in the next season. That also means that some of us have become so insecure with success and with blessings that we have found commonality with our bondage. We have come to this place where I want this more then I want what he's promised. And we don't always see it that way. We don't. And it seems counterintuitive, right? It seems really counterintuitive, but I promise you that some of us are there because that's easier for us. It allows our flesh to move how it wants to. It allows our pride to say, well, the Lord didn't respond, so this must be my lot, so I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to make decisions here. I'm going to choose what I want to do. And so now you're not even operating in a place of obedience. You're operating in a place where you have exalted yourself above God. And that is dangerous. And it's because you didn't see a way out. So you didn't trust that the Lord had made one. But just because you don't see one doesn't mean that he hasn't made one. It means you have to trust it when he says it. And sometimes when the Lord says a thing, we're upset because that exit doesn't look like what we wanted. It doesn't look like the result that we wanted. It doesn't feel like the exit that we wanted. But just because you don't see one doesn't mean that he hasn't made one. And it doesn't mean that it's far off. Sometimes we do have to wait a little bit for the exit. Sometimes it's right there and you're overlooking it. Take time with God. Take time with God. Get to know God. Really ask for guidance on how to activate your faith into movement. Because here's, again, the thing. There will be seasons where the Lord tells you something and it does not make sense. He'll call you into places. It does not make sense. You have no idea where you're going. But he says, hey, I'm taking you into a territory that belongs to you. You don't even know it. You haven't even put in work for it. But all I'm requiring is that you move. All I'm requiring is that you let that era, that season end, that you not prolong it, that you immediately pick up your feet, that you immediately pick up your bed and walk. Y'all remember the lame man? And when he was healed, the Lord just said, okay, pick up your bed and walk. Some of us, the issue is that we don't want to pick up our bed and walk. We want this big to do. We want him to do the extra. When the Lord is very simply saying, be obedient. Just get up. Leave that place. You were already healed. You already had what you needed from here. I'd already equipped you for this next place. Just get up. Pick up your bed and walk. And you also have to understand that picking up your bed means that you're also going to carry with you what you learned there. That means that things won't always be easy, that there will always be a weight to it. You're not going to just be skipping through life. There will always be a weight to it because it grounds you and it helps you to understand that you are nothing and can be nothing without God. Okay, that's it. Hebrews 11, and that's verses 7 through 12. I want to read I want to read a prayer really quick. And this is from the Pretty Good Prayers coloring book. And this is the hope. This is the hope prayer. And I want to read it with you really quick. And if you haven't gotten this yet, I highly, highly, highly encourage. This is such an incredible, powerful tool to enhance your prayer life, to enhance your quiet time with the Lord, to really give you guided prayers, but also it has coloring pages that help to center you, that help you to calm down, that help you to find peace and to hold peace. It's a really good exercise for you to really begin to hear the Lord, to quiet the noise around you, to become intentional and committed to the work of discerning his voice from your own. So if you have not gotten the Pretty Good Prayers coloring book, go to heyprettylife.com. We have a couple more copies on hand. But again, I want to read into your spirit today the prayer of hope. And the study scriptures, before I even read the prayer, the study scriptures are Psalm 62, 5 through 6, Psalm 62, verse 5 through 6, Psalm 119, verse 114, Psalm 119, verse 114, Romans 15 and 13, Romans 15 and 13, and Hebrews 11 and 1. Hebrews 11 and 1, which, didn't we just do Hebrews 11? All right, so here's the scripture. Father, give me hope in the midst of my circumstances as I trust in your wisdom and guidance. Help me to release the responsibility of having all the answers, but to instead trust that all things will work out. Help me to rest in you alone and not my own abilities, as I have no greatness outside of you. I need your encouragement to find the beauty in all things so that I do not become overwhelmed by the hard things. So many days feel like they have nothing special or good about them. So many days have a weight to them that brings my mood down. Help me to hold on to the hope of your presence and your love. The weight of my days does not overtake me. Give me hope in the unseen as I hold on to your peace and trust your decisions. Lord, I fix my eyes on you, the author and perfecter of my faith. My hope will not be based on how I feel or what I see, but what I know and who I trust. Let it always be you. In Jesus' name, amen. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. I hope that our chat today blesses you. I hope that it encourages you to do your own personal study time with the Lord. Go take those scriptures and study more. Spend more time with him. There's even deeper revelation. There are some things that I couldn't cover today that I'm hopeful that he'll also share with you in your quiet time. And listen, even if he doesn't show you the first time, go back. Stay in his presence. Don't get tired. Don't get frustrated. Go back. Become intentional about prioritizing your time with him. Consider him for who he is. Give him the time and honor that he's due. It was wonderful spending time with you today. I hope that you have a fantastic, fantastic week. I hope that if you have not already, that you have registered for the brunch being hosted on Saturday, May 3rd by the Hey Pretty team. So I want to also be very clear about this because I don't know if it has been clear. This is something that the Hey Pretty team puts together to bring the pretty crew together, okay? So this is not where there will be teaching. It is literally just girl time. So the Hey Pretty team will be there and they take this on. So they're actually going to be the ones facilitating it, not me. They will be the ones facilitating it. And I love that because it means that they love y'all just as much as I do. They want to create intentional and intimate space with you. So all of the pretty crew will be coming together from various parts and from various areas and just sitting down for brunch. And you are responsible for the coverage of your food, but we do ask that you register so that we can have a head count for those who are coming. And if you haven't registered, that's okay. You can still show up because you may have made plans already. But if you can, go to heyprettylife.com and register just so we can have you in the number. The Hey Pretty team is excited to see you. Also, we have a financial wellness seminar coming up in July and a Bible study workshop coming up in October. Those are free. So all you have to do is go to heyprettylife.com and register for the financial wellness workshop and the Bible study workshop. We love, 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 love pouring back into our community. It's one of the ways that the Lord has called us to support you in the areas of holistic wellness. And of course, if you have not registered for the Hey Pretty experience, or as many call it, the Hey Pretty conference, I want you to also go back to heyprettylife.com and make sure you register. Early bird tickets are on sale. They close in June, so make sure that you don't miss this opportunity. VIP is almost sold out, and we are doing something so special. The Lord led me to a scripture, and we've got something really, really exciting for you. It's a special activity, as well as teaching all the things, but I want you to go ahead and register at heyprettylife.com for the Hey Pretty experience in New Orleans, Louisiana, February 27th through 28th. Again, it was wonderful spending time with you. I look forward to spending time with you throughout the year. And I hope that you have a week that is filled with faith activation. All right. Love y'all. Bye, pretty ones.